Hey everybody, I'm Karyn Bryant for MMA H.E.A.T, talking with Artem Lobov, who of course is taking on Cub Swanson at UFC Nashville. So thank you so much for taking the time to do this today. I got to ask first and foremost, how you feeling? You know, you're just, a week and a couple of days out from your fight.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the show. And yeah, I feel great. I'm excited. I'm here in Nashville and I'm ready to go.
Nice. So you just got there already, which, seems, pretty early for fighters. Usually they don't get there till maybe the Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday of fight night. So what was the idea behind you getting to Nashville already?
Yeah, I felt the one advantage that Cub would have over me would be home advantage, So I thought, why not take that away from him? Why not come here a bit early and make this my home for the time being? Get used to the time difference, get used to the climate, just get comfortable with all the restaurants around, the food and everything, So that's what I did.
Nice. I will tell you, Nashville is a really cool town, but stay away from the fried pickles because they'll make you retain water.
Right.
They are good. I don't know how you feel about country music either, but it's a cool town. It's a very cool town.
Yeah, I had a little look, and yeah, it seems like a nice place. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, so let's talk about your camp. Did you do the usual things? Who did you have for training partners to get you ready for somebody like Cub, who is a very obviously exciting and dynamic striker, a guy who really likes to put the pressure on?
Yeah, well, at the very start of the camp, Conor kind of was starting to get ready for Mayweather already. So, we got a good few rounds with him, boxing, and then he helped me as well with some combinations and, some shots that would work well against Cub. And then, the usual suspects as always, and I had Richard Smolin, helping me jiu-jitsu wise, and then Peter Queally, with wrestling and everything. So, very good camp as always, in SBG, no stone is left unturned, we look at everything, and so I'm ready.
Well, certainly you guys are having some positive momentum. Alan Joban, obviously a really good friend of mine, but your boy Gunny had some great success with him, and I do want to ask you about Conor and Mayweather, but a little bit later. But yeah, are you guys feeling that positive vibe right now? I feel like your gym now is really starting to make a real mark on the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we work hard. We've been around for a very long time. People sometimes confuse fame with skill. And because many of us weren't in the UFC back in the day, so we didn't have that fame, but the skill, it was always there. We were ready for that level many, many years ago. Now we just finally get to show it on the big stage.
Very nice. Well, Cub Swanson obviously is a guy who's been around for a while. And a lot of people, when this fight got announced, were kind of like scratching their heads saying, why is Cub fighting Artem? And it seemed like really you kind of brought this fight into reality. Can you take people through how this happened? Because it basically started with you kind of calling him out. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I just did an interview and they asked me who would I like to fight, and I mentioned his name. And then I seen on Twitter that he responded and said that he didn't like me anyway. So I just kind of went from there. I thought, okay, this could actually happen. And then I messaged Sean Shelby saying, look, Sean, I know you probably think, Cub is going to beat me, but please let me prove you wrong. And sure enough, he gave me the opportunity, and here we are.
Well, does it offend you at all that people say the fight makes no sense for Cub? Like, people understand why you would want to fight him. Obviously, he's a big name. He's coming off that fight with Doo Ho Choi. Like, Cub's sort of recent fights, his recent renaissance, he's looking so good, and it's understandable why you want to fight him. People don't quite understand why he wants to, quote unquote, like, fight down. You know what I mean? They're like, what does he get from this? What's the point for him? Does that offend you at all?
Not at all. I mean, realistically, our sport is very, very young, so the fans aren't that knowledgeable yet. And if you look at things that happen outside of the UFC, the knowledge is pretty much zero. People don't know anything. They just don't know that anything else exists. They don't realize that I've been fighting at a very high level for a very long time, and I have taken on some very, very good guys, some very good European guys. And I mean, if you look at what the European guys are doing in the UFC at the moment, there's many, many European champions already, and there are only a handful of European guys in the UFC. Imagine if it was half and half Europeans, half Americans. They would completely dominate the UFC. So, the level is very, very high in Europe. There's a lot of very good martial artists in Europe. Like the Dutch, they dominate the stand-up.
Yep.
Wrestling. People talk about American wrestling. It's nothing compared to the Russian wrestling or even, some of the other countries. Boxing as well. The Irish with the boxing. And, Europe is always been at wars throughout history. So people there are warriors. They're fighters, very, very good fighters. So the level is very, very high. But coming back to your question, I don't get offended by anything. There's a very close circuit of people that I have, and those are the people whose opinion matter to me. Everybody else can, whatever. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to swear on this show.
Is the polite phrase. Yeah, but you know what I really mean to say. But I say kick rocks to keep it safe for work. But what was it specifically then about Cub that made you want to fight him? Because certainly, there's a lot of exciting fighters. There's a lot of guys I feel, I definitely like when Artem gets in a stand-up fight more so than a guy that's going to take you down. And I guess that's something that Cub can do for you, is a guy that wants to stand there and trade with you. But what was it particularly about him that made you feel like he would be a good matchup for you, or that he was somebody that you wanted to face?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he brings it every fight. He just goes out there and fights. That's, I always talk about, sometimes people, they can be a little bit too sporty, sort of say, they think about it as too much of a sport. At the end of the day, it's a fight. So let's fight. That's what makes the sport exciting. This is how it all started, with fighting. And that's what I always do in my fights. I just come there and I fight. I want to knock the guy out, and that's it. And I feel that Cub is similar in that way. So when you put two guys like that into the same octagon, things are going to fly around, and, there's going to be fireworks, and it's going to make for a great fight.
Yeah, how frustrating was it for you? And I say that obviously knowing that that fight for you for the Ultimate Fighter with Ryan Hall was very frustrating, because he is a jiu-jitsu guy and was a guy that barely, threw strikes in that fight with you. And I feel like that was frustrating for you. So how much of it, because now you're on a 2-fight win streak. So how much of that excitement comes from you, for you, knowing that you have a guy that's going to play the game that you like to play?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm very excited. I love those kind of fights. I'm getting ready for a 20-round war. That's what I'm ready for. How it's gonna go, who knows? We'll find out. But yeah, of course, I am very excited. But I like all styles. And Ryan, yeah, I was frustrated, of course, but I still enjoyed being in there. I love the octagon is a very special place for me. It's my favorite place on the planet. It's the one place where I can truly relax. There's no war in there. There's no global warming. There's no cancer. There's nothing there. There's just peace and quiet and just enjoyment. I can truly relax and just, sort of go on a holiday. So I try to be in there as often as I can. If it was up to me, I'd fight every Saturday. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to being in there once again.
Yeah, I have to say that that makes a lot of sense, because at the end of the day, when you're in there, it's just pure. It's just you versus him, and like you said, all the rest of the noise of the world just falls out. But like when you're in there, what is your inner monologue? Do you talk to yourself? Are you having fun? Do you know what I mean? Do you think about your game plan, or are you going just on instinct? What's going through your mind when you're in there?
Yeah, I don't really talk to myself or anything. I'm just, once I enter, I'm just right. That's it. I'm home. Yeah. I'm home. That's it. Let's have fun now.
Now, is that something too? I mean, yeah. Well, people say some things like, "Did you ever imagine you'd be in this situation?" But you're a guy that literally used to just throw down wherever, whenever, right? Backyards, this, that, the other thing. So how much does it mean to you, now to be in doing what you love to do, in the most recognized, the most highly recognized, the most highly regarded place on the planet for your sport?
Yeah, I mean, it is great. I don't know. I don't think I've had the chance to kind of just stop and think. And I don't think it's time for me to stop and think just yet. Maybe when I'm 50, 60 or whatever, I can stop and look back and think. For now, it's just time to fight. Right. Now it's time to grind. It's time to push forward. Keep going. If I fall, I get back up, I dust myself off, and I keep moving forward. But there's no time to stop. Do
you think you have a better perspective on picking yourself back up? Because, the people who don't like you, Artem, say, "Oh, look at his record. The guy's got like almost as many losses as wins. This guy's not good." But like you've proven that you just embody the spirit of a fighter. So, I mean, do you feel like you have a better sense of coming back from defeat? Do you feel like you have something that maybe other fighters don't have, who, you know, guys who have a record that's nearly perfect or something where they haven't had to face adversity?
Yeah, and to be honest, like I said, this is coming back to having a legit record. You know, I'm very comfortable to say that, at least from Europe, and I didn't look too much into like some of the American guys' record, but from Europe for sure, there is nobody can come in and say that they have faced harder fights than I have. And I have put out that challenge many times. I says, well, you know, people say something, I say, well, bring it. Let's see who you fought, and let's see who I fought. Pretty much every guy on my record, or at least 90% of the guys on my record, were either top 10 or top 5 guys in their respective countries. You know, this is not something that anybody in Europe can say. So, and a lot of my losses were decision losses, where I was destroying the guy and maybe rearrange their face, but they managed to hold me down a little bit and just, you know, kind of play the point game a little bit better and win the fight that way. But I wouldn't even say they won the fight. They maybe won the contest, but not the fight. But I do accept them, and you know, fair play to them. I never, you know, turn my face away from that. You know, all those wins and losses, they're all mine. I was in there and I done it. So that doesn't bother me.
Well, good. And I know this because we've talked about this before too. You're also not really bothered when people say that you wouldn't be here if it weren't for Conor.
Absolutely, you know, and I will confirm that, no problem at all. You know, it absolutely is like that, because, you know, unfortunately in this sport, it's not just about fighting the hardest fights and being deserving the shot based on what you've actually done. You know, it is a marketing business. You know, it is a business. And you need something to get in there. You know, even for Conor, it was hard to get into the UFC. I mean, imagine that. Conor was knocking out guys left, right, and center on the European circuit, and he couldn't get a contract. So, you know, how was I gonna get that? So, you know, that doesn't bother me at all. He helped me. He's a true friend. He's a brother. You know, I help him in my ways, and he helped me in other ways. And we have a great team. So.
Well, and I have to say, I still, when you fight, I still like to say, nice and flowy, Artem. Nice and flowy.
Yeah, I still get a lot of that. At the start, after the Ultimate Fighter, I mean, people used to comment that on everything. I could put a picture of my dead cat, and people would be saying, nice and flowy, Artem.
Nice and flowy. But you know what? At the same time, for as many people who will sort of try to pick on your relationship, there's a lot of people who really applaud the bond that you have. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people that myself included, that love the loyalty, that love the bond that you guys have. And I do think that there is really something special there about you guys continuing to support each other and continuing to lift each other up. I think it's great.
Yeah, and you know, like I said, the bond is not just there. We weren't just neighbors that you said, oh, that's my neighbor, you know, kid that I know from childhood. No, it was built in the gym, you know, on very, very hard spars, on the spars that, you know, most people couldn't withstand, you know, and I could. So that's how I earned my respect from Conor, and that's how he earned, you know, my respect, and that's how I earned his. So, you know, to me, it's so good.
Absolutely. Well, so what is the status lately? You said at the beginning of your camp, Conor was getting ready for Floyd Mayweather. You know, it's going to be hard for me to sit here with you and not ask you about that. You know, every time we talk to people around the situation, it sounds like it's closer to happening than to not happening. But for you, in your mindset, when you guys are training, is that the goal? You guys are training right now for Floyd Mayweather?
Absolutely, you know, we're already getting ready for Floyd Mayweather, and we already started doing that back in, I think, January. So, yeah, 100%. I think the fight is going to happen. It's looking very, very likely now. It's looking that it's very, very close to being signed, and it's going to be massive. You know, I can't wait, to be honest. I mean, just even to think that, I mean, that is just crazy. And, you know, I wanted to clarify something, you know, because people always talk about Conor, like, not defending the belt. Yeah. And I'm looking and I'm going, what the hell are you on about, guys? He fights more often than anyone. Yeah. And it's not like he's avoiding somebody to defend the belt. He didn't defend the featherweight belt because there was no one else there left. Okay. He had destroyed everyone. So you need to excite the guy. You need to give him a new challenge. And there was no new challenge. He had destroyed all the guys. And he moved up and took on a harder fight at a higher weight class and got that belt as well. So, you know, what is there to defend? Give him something to look forward to. Give him a challenge. I mean, Khabib was supposed to fight Tony, and that would have, you know, probably given a clear challenger for Conor, but it didn't happen. Khabib didn't make weight. Once again, he didn't show up. So, you know, there is no clear guy for him to fight. And Mayweather, this is the biggest challenge. So Conor once again wants to challenge him like no one else has ever done before. He is going into a different game to take on the best guy ever. You know, I mean, how can you doubt this man? How can you hate on that? This is like, I have nothing but respect for this. You know, this man is doing crazy things. You know, no one else, you know, wants to do that. You know, they put Demetrius Johnson as the #1 pound-for-pound guy. I don't agree with that at all. Because look what happened to him when he went up weight class, when he used to fight at 135. He lost to Brad Pickett. He lost to Dominic Cruz. He had to get away, go lower to try and, you know, win fights. And he doesn't want to go up now. So how is he #1 pound-for-pound? He clearly isn't, you know. And let's be honest, you know, I don't want to hate on Demetrius. He is a great fighter. I love his technique. I learn a lot from watching his fights. But the challenges in that division aren't exactly the greatest, whereas Conor goes for the best guys in every division after division. So in my opinion, he should be the #1 pound-for-pound guy.
But it's hard to argue Conor #1 pound-for-pound when there's a guy like John Jones.
Yeah, but John Jones, where the hell is he? When did he fight last? Can he even still fight? I don't know. He hasn't fought in so long, and he did look great in his last fight.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
The OSP fight, yeah, it wasn't great. And I agree with you that Conor's desire, ability, and willingness to go where other people haven't gone, I find incredibly admirable. And what's so interesting to me is that there's always the risk of failure, but it's like he doesn't give a, you know what I mean? And I think that's so great.
And he's taking on harder fights than it would be defending the belt. I mean, come on, he went up a weight class and went and challenged for the lightweight belt. That was a harder fight than fighting Aldo again, who he knocked out in 13 seconds. Of course he didn't want to fight him again. It's like, man, I just knocked you out in 13 seconds. Right. Why should I go back there and do it again? Like, you know, give me something, excite me. You know, let me see something. That's how he's thinking. He wants a challenge. That man wants to be challenged the whole time. He wants to take on the best of the best. And right now, the best in boxing is Mayweather. And that's why he's taking him on.
So you're thinking that will happen, hopefully maybe this summer or something, though? And then, because the fear is, Artem, that Conor will fight Floyd Mayweather and then just like never fight in the UFC again because he won't need to, because he'll be so paid. What's the point?
He already doesn't need to. And if you're just talking about money, he doesn't need to already. But this, you know, if you didn't realize this already, he is not just about money. Of course, money, yeah, you know, he needs money. He looks after his family. He looks after a lot of people. So, yeah, money, of course, is a big factor. But he doesn't need any more money already. You know, he has enough. If he wanted to retire, he could. He can very easily retire now. But he wants a challenge. You need to show him something that will challenge him. You need to show him, all right, this guy really looks good. This guy is really going to be challenged. And that will excite him. And at the moment, there isn't. At the moment, there is no one there for him to go and challenge. And if somebody emerges, well, then he'll be back.
But I got to be honest with you. I think a fight between Conor and Tony Ferguson would be spectacularly fun to watch. Like, I feel like that would be a hell of a fight. Tony is aggressive. Tony has submissions. Tony can win fights in a lot of ways, which he's shown before. He's more reliable than Khabib in terms of showing up and making weight. I feel like it's hard to watch Tony Ferguson and not get excited about thinking of him versus Conor.
Absolutely. But when Conor has a bigger challenge in ahead, he will go for the biggest one. And Mayweather presents a bigger challenge. That's why he is going for that. You know, if there was no Mayweather, perhaps maybe he would be, you know, looking at Tony. But right now, it's Mayweather. He is the biggest challenge, and that's what Conor wants to tackle.
Well, it's funny. Today I was working with Karyn Woodley, and I said, I got to go. I'm talking to Artem in a bit. And he goes, tell that man to leave my name out of his mouth, too. And I know. So I don't know if you said something about Karyn. I know that Karyn and Conor maybe had some words at 205. And, you know, we've talked before about Conor moving up to 170 and stuff. But when you look at somebody like Karyn Woodley, I'm curious what your take is on that. And if you think that's something that your team, you guys would all agree on was a great idea to go up and try to fight him at 170.
Yeah, well, the only thing I said to Tyron, because he's been very moany, and complaining, about that the UFC don't promote him and all
Yeah.
this. What do you mean they don't promote him? They have given him the biggest platform. They put him on the New York card, which was the biggest card ever, right before Conor's fight, when everybody's starting to tune in because they don't want to miss Conor's fight. And they gave him a huge platform. Well, it's up to you to deliver. It's up to you to go out there and finish guy and become that huge star. He didn't do that. They gave him another chance, put him as a main event, put a very nice co-main event before him of Tony Ferguson and Khabib, which makes everybody tune in, and then they stay watch his fight. Once again, he didn't deliver. So, what else can they do? They can't beat the guy for you. They can't finish the guy for you. They have given him the platform. They have given him everything. And he just didn't deliver, so he only has himself to blame. And then when he tried to pull that racist card as well, that makes no sense either, because John Jones is a huge star.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He is a huge star. So how come, it doesn't apply to him, but it applies to Tyron Woodley? No. So that's all I had to say about it. I speak facts. If you want to say something to me, you have an issue, about something that I have said, well, hit me with facts. Don't just come at me, oh, you're talking shit, blah, blah. No, correct me. And if I'm wrong, I have no problem apologizing. I've been wrong many times in life, and I always apologize when I am wrong. But I don't think I'm wrong on this occasion.
Well, and I think that's what is so great about talking to you is, there's a lot of people who try to say the politically correct thing and who try to maybe appeal to everybody. This is a conversation we had at work about Daniel Cormier. This is DC is somebody obviously I know very, very well, and some people reacted to him after his fight with Rumble the other day, and they were kind of taken aback. I'm like, no, that's actually the real DC. Like, he stopped. I asked him, I said, hey, do you want to be the hero or the heel? And he's like, at this point, I can't make people, cheer for me. I can't force you to like me or whatever. And I feel like that's kind of the way that you've approached this too, and you've been just organically you. But I also feel like, yeah, it's kind of more fun to just speak the truth and not try to tiptoe around stuff.
You have to be yourself.
Yeah, do you find that to be like sort of more liberating?
Of course, you have to be yourself. Like, there's cameras on you all the time. How can you try and pretend to be someone? I mean, look at John Jones. He tried to do that. Every time there was a camera, he tried to start praying and Jesus, and he was all this holy person. But then sometimes the camera would turn on him, and next thing he's got a big line of coke under his nose. You know what I mean? And that's what happens. That's what happens. Just be yourself. Right. You know what I mean? There's no problem. We're all human. We all make mistakes. It happens. No big deal. And another thing, I want to say to the rest of the people that always then, started hating him for that, saying you were such a role model, you're a bad role model now. No, if you're a parent, don't be stupid. Teach your kid to not be stupid. Look at John Jones, say, look, this man worked hard. He achieved a lot of things. That's a good thing. So you follow that. But then he's also made some mistakes. He, hit a woman in a car, he was driving, whatever. That's not a good thing. So you don't follow that. There's nobody perfect in this world. So what's all this? You have to be a perfect role model. Nobody is perfect role model. Nobody is perfect.
No, absolutely.
Teach your kids to recognize that and learn, to see the mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and the thing is, I feel like in John Jones's case, there is actually a lot of goodwill toward him. I feel like a lot of people, myself included, like, we want him to get it together because it's so fun to watch him fight. You know what I mean? That, like, I kind of hate the fact that all these other things are happening that are keeping him out of the octagon because he's amazing.
Exactly. And he should just embrace himself and just be himself. Just, admit it, accept it, and say, look, whatever. Yeah, it happened. Sorry, guys. Who did it not happen to? You know what I mean? Many people drink, many people do all kinds of stupid shit. We're all human. It happens. No big deal. Just, be yourself and accept it and admit it, and it's no biggie.
Right.
Come back and fight and, let us see some good fights again.
So, Artem, if the headline were to come out about you screwing up, what is it? Artem Lobov gets 9 girls pregnant in one night. Like, what? What's... what would you be busted for?
I don't know, to be honest. I don't know. It could be anything. Could be anything.
It could be anything. It could be anything. Listen, I know what I was at. Obviously, I was at UFC 205. To be honest, Conor looked kind of freaked out about the idea of being a father. As a mother myself, I know it is certainly life-changing. How has he been during this process? I mean, Dee looks beautiful. The picture she's sharing, she looks like a really happy, lovely lady right now. But I'm wondering, how your boy's doing right now, because obviously every single day we're getting closer to reality.
Yeah, I've seen him like not long ago there, and he was absolutely fine with it now.
Okay,
He
good.
seems to he seems to have kind of really grown into the role now. He's ready to be a father. He's ready to have that kid, and it's gonna be one lucky kid. I tell you what, he's gonna be loved and taken care of. And so I look forward to meeting him as well. So it's gonna be pretty cool.
Very nice. So you'll be Uncle Artem, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I love it. I love it. So listen, in terms of the fight with Cub, let's say you knock him out. Let's say you beat Cub Swanson. What do you think that does for you for your fight career, and what would you want to do after that?
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna now finally prove to those unknowledgeable fans that where I belong. That I belong at the top, and I have the skill to beat the best guys in the UFC. And where it goes from there, I mean, anything can happen. I'll stay ready. Nowadays, what counts for the most at the moment is people that show up. As you've seen, people don't show up to their own fights. And Aldo is known for pullouts. He is known for it. He's overjoyed pullout. In fact, he used to pull out, every second fight, and now he had two fights in a row. So he's joy pullout. I can see him pulling out of that fight. And when he pulls out with a week or 2 weeks to go, who is gonna show up? Who is gonna take that fight? Because people take short notice fights against Conor because it's a money fight.
Right.
There's millions on the line to be made. But Holloway is not a money fight. There will be no millions on the line. So, and he is a hard fight. So who is going to show up? Who is going to fly to Brazil to fight Max Holloway on a week's notice? No one will except me. So anything can happen.
Very nice. And lastly, do you think we'll see Conor versus Nate 3?
I think so. I think so. There's unfinished business there. It's 1-1 now. We need to settle that score.
Awesome.
So definitely, we'll do team versus team again.
Nice.
That was good the first time, and I think we'll do it again.
It's all good. You guys all get paid off of that, and everybody wants to see those.
Exactly.
So
why not?
you're on a 2-fight win streak. Ideally, how do you end this fight with Cub Swanson?
Ideally, he throws one of his wild shots, and I spark him, and it's good night. And I just hope they're able to wake him back up.
Nice. Very nice. Listen, Artem, it's always been a pleasure talking to you. I mean, from our days on The Ultimate Fighter on Tough Talk to talking to you
just
now.
one thing.
I got to say, I think it's great. I really do appreciate it.
But what's the story with you going through my manager to get an interview with me? You can just send me that message, and I'm always more than happy to do the interview with you. I was a little bit offended by that.
Well, I don't actually have your number, and it's funny because I wrote them and I was like, hey, I usually just DM him. I don't actually have his number, but let's do this. And I just figured it would be easier because I figured to be too busy right now. But I appreciate it, and I feel the same way. I'll always take your calls, so.
Perfect.
Awesome, Artem. Well, thank you so much. Best of luck. And I'll be at the desk on Fox working the show, and everything. And I'm really excited about this. Cub is a guy that always shows up and puts on a good fight. Like, there's no way this fight could be boring, which I freaking love.
Perfect. Sounds good to me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
Thank you very much, man. Thank you. Bye-bye.